There is no fighter aircraft, either current or planned, that can rival the F-22. The most costly and sophisticated fighter in the world at one point was the F-22 program, which is now retired by the US Air Force. The F-35, the USAF's fifth-generation system, was the only one to surpass it. But even in its early stages of growth, the US Army remained the world's most sophisticated fighter force. The United States Congress and the US Army made sure the US military couldn't transfer the technology to any other party, not even its friends. Still, American allies were the first to engage in combat with the more sophisticated F-35 fighter. What makes a difference? Israel expressed a strong desire for F-22s, and Japan expressed great interest in acquiring several for its own defense forces. South Korea, Singapore, Australia, and Japan would have all desired parity if Japan had been allowed to purchase. China would have shown interest as well. Japan's neighbors continue to be concerned about the return of militarism to their island nation despite the passage of time. Using low observable technologies, contemporary avionics, and efficient engines, the F-22 Raptor is regarded as the first fifth-generation fighter in the US Air Force arsenal, providing an air superiority fighter unrivaled by any other modern military. An essential part of the Global Strike Task Force, the F-22 Raptor is built to project air superiority quickly and over long distances, defeating adversaries trying to prevent the Air Force, Army, Navy, and Marine Corps from entering the country. Had the sale of the fighter been authorized for American friends, the $62 billion F-22 program undoubtedly would have had some of the R&D expenses mitigated. They were queued up to buy, but the Obey Amendment to the 1998 Department of Defense Appropriations Act would have prevented the F-22 Raptor from being sold to any foreign country. Moreover, China must contend with the growing importance of having stealth jets in the hands and over the skies of American partners, as their own air forces are producing sophisticated stealth fighters of their own. This was the case even in the 1990s, but Congressman Dave Obey wasn't having any of it. The congressman worried that the stealth technology on the F-22, which still makes a smaller radar cross-section than even the F-35, would end up in the hands of China or Russia if sold to allies, especially Israel. It seems Congress was worried the Israelis would leak US tech to China and Russia. US intelligence. The way American intelligence believes Israel aided China in the development of its J-10 fighter. Since then, the House of Representatives has had a number of debates and discussions about whether or not they should repeal the law. The plane's parts are manufactured at several locations between Marietta, Georgia, and Palmdale, California. Since the manufacture of the fighter ended, American manufacturing centers have had to absorb the cost of modern manufacturing techniques and research and development. The F-22 program was eventually cancelled due to its high cost, and the fact that the US military no longer saw the necessity for an air-to-air fighter to confront Soviet planes. The projected 381 Raptors were far more than the 183 that the US military actually purchased. However, China and Russia went on to produce fighters of the next generation nevertheless. The US thereby increased its commitment to the Joint Strike Fighter. So how come our friends like Japan and Israel can purchase the most sophisticated multi-role fighter in the world? The F-35 was always meant to be a fighter system developed globally. Allies of the United States were always meant to have access to it and share in the expense of creating such powerful technology. It was developed in large part during the F-22 search. The first American-developed fighter was Lockheed Martin's, which was created in the United States. On April 22, 2018, the world's top producer of stealth aircraft offered a new hybrid, which could easily outperform the US Air Force for Japan to purchase. It was a cross between the F-22 Raptor and the F-35 Lightning. The F-22 stealth fighter, which is ideal for Japan's defense requirements because of its long range and large capacity, has been sought after by the country for many years. With one exception, the US won't sell it. Japan likewise achieved great success with the F-35 Lightning, while also finishing the F-22 Raptor. The United States decided not to sell the jet to any of its allies in 2022 because the technology was too sophisticated to be exported. However, this decision was made in 2007, 11 years ago. Although the F-35 multi-role strike aircraft is now being sold to Japan by the United States, its design is not optimal for Tokyo. The F-35 is a strike aircraft first and foremost. Due to its size, single engine, and design, it is limited in air-to-air warfare and is meant to strike heavily fortified ground targets. Tokyo, however, desires a fighter that is more focused on air superiority because Chinese and Russian aircraft are a continual nuisance in Japan's airspace. Without firing the afterburners, the F-22 can travel at 60,000 feet at a speed of approximately 1.5 times the speed of sound. That means it can travel great distances without losing its stealth. Although it is a capable fighter, the F-35 cannot match those figures. It has a larger missile loadout and is far more capable of performing operations involving air superiority. It is not actually the striker role for which the F-35 is intended, but rather the one that Japan values. Although the F-35 is just too small to house anti-ship missiles inside its covert weapon depot, Japan would love to have a fighter that can shoot these missiles. Given that the F-22's critical technology is getting older and less cutting edge, America may decide to relax limitations on foreign military sales and take another look at the determination that was made 10 years ago over its sale. However, it's very possible that the same technological improvement has doomed the F-22's restart. Even if Japan offered to pay, the costs of resuming the F-22 production are not insignificant because many electrical parts, computer chips, and other items are no longer manufactured. The F-22 was developed over several years, beginning with technologies from the 1980s. It's difficult to justify replacing the electronics if the F-22 were going to go into production right now. The flight software would require an upgrade once the electronics were modified to take up less space and upset the jet's balance. The F-22 was developed over several years, beginning with technologies from the 1980s. The flying software appears to be a new fighter program once updates begin to roll in. The business would have a lot of headaches as a result. Lockheed's idea ultimately resembles a F-22 airframe jam-packed with F-35-era technology, thereby taking the finest features from each jet and fusing them into a plane that would outperform both. Not only would Japan have an excellent fighter on its hands if it could afford the expenditures, but more troublingly, it would be more capable than anything the US Air Force is now using. The US Air Force would ultimately find itself in a very challenging situation, forced to choose between using funds intended for F-35s, which the US views as the force's future, on an aircraft it couldn't develop, or accepting Japan's acquisition of a more advanced fighter.